You bet. So a little bit about me. I've been in practice for about 37 years. About 17 of those were spent at Scripps in San Diego, kind of being kind of a house kind of guy. So the head of pediatric neurosurgery said, "Yeah, I did the surgery on him, but he still has this headache. Send him to Watkinson. Send him." So I got a lot of cases from Scripps that were people that they couldn't figure out. So my practice became, because all of you do the same thing. Maybe you have a head of pediatric neurosurgery sending you cases too, but you know, it was kind of special to be recognized. I remember one time I had a case that I was seeing, and I was talking to Michael, and I said, I'm having a little trouble with the pediatrician getting some of the documents, some of the labs on the child. He said, which pediatrician's that? He said, you know, there's a pecking order in medicine, and he said, and I'm on the top of the pecking order. He said, I'm going to call him and say, what in the world's your problem? Send the man the paperwork. And that's the kind of loyalty that I had going there with people that kind of, they didn't know what I did. They said, I don't know what he does, but he helps people. The experience that I got when I was bitten 7 times across my lower back by a brown recluse spider and was knocked out of the game, paralyzed for a while, and I kept on saying, there is importance to this, there is importance to this. And sometimes there's not a direct cause effect in life between information, application, revenue, income, whatever it may be. But the deal is that what I got from this whole system of understanding, from being sick and finding a result for myself, has paid me back 10-fold, 100-fold, 50 million-fold. And I'm not talking about economics necessarily. I'm talking about knowledge. I'm talking about the ability to help people, help children. I take care of a lot of autistic kids. I see patients from all over the world now, and I used to think I used to see the worst of the worst. And now I think I'm seeing the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. They come at the 12th hour in wheelchairs, and they can't talk, and they're given the wrong diagnosis, and when you look through the stack of lab work, nobody ever really tested what they really had. And so what I do with that is I correlate it with what I'm finding on Zyto, and I was looking for a place to begin with everybody who walked through the door. And some of us were talking earlier about the economics of California, and it's the economics of everywhere right now. California, Southern California has been hit especially hard. Florida's been hit especially hard. But a lot of people don't have the money to be able to buy the volume of product that we have to offer to help them get well. And you know, you can't fix them if you can't get them back. And if they can't afford you, you can't get them back. Therefore, you can't fix them. And so consequently, what I was wanting to do was I was wanting to create something that was going to work so well that I could give it to them, and it wasn't going to bust the bank at all, and it was going to give them something to do and give them a foot in the door so they could start learning how to get well. And I will get to that before I'm done. But what I wanted to talk first about were all the different minerals and the effects of these minerals and how these minerals exist. And if we look at this slide, minerals work in electrolytes, they work in enzymes. Those are metalloenzymes. There's over 200 enzymes that are created and need zinc. They don't happen if they don't have zinc. So consequently, if you think about someone, well, he's got a zinc deficiency, let's give him some zinc. Well, when you give him zinc, you're going to throw off copper, and copper's going to throw off iron, and iron's going to throw off this guy, and everybody else is going to be thrown off. So giving someone even a multiple mineral product, if it doesn't have 72 minerals in it, including some ones we don't think we ought to have, like aluminum or arsenic or some of these other things, we're missing the boat on being able to provide a multi-mineral. You can't get it out of the ocean today. The ocean's too toxic. What can you do? You can go back in time and you scoop it out of the lake and do the miracle things that John does with it. But organs and systems, every organ in the body has its individual minerals that it wants, that it needs to create good operation. So how basic can you be when you've got a sick person in front of you? And what I find in my practice with my little muscle tests that I do, I always do an exam on my patients before I do Zyto on them. And what I find from head to toe is they're not conducting. In other words, it's like John's little device right here, except one is this finger and one is this finger, and I'm here to here, and I'm seeing if I have continuity in that patient. And if I don't have continuity, it's because they don't have the electrical energy to really register a change in that muscle test, because they have no continuity, because they have no body electric. Big problem today. We've got cell phones, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got multiple Wi-Fi stacked on top of Wi-Fis, we've got microwave. Now we have smart meters. What a stupid thing that is. And if you guys have one in your house, I tell you, go buy a 3/8 piece of lead and nail it up over the sucker. And that's what I've done at my house. I take it off from time to time, let them read it, and tell each other lies about why they're doing the technology. But if you have a Public Utility Commission and you can get their address, write them a nasty letter and tell them you don't want it, your patients don't want it. They don't care if you have a plate in your head, if you're schizophrenic, if you're autistic or anything else. They don't care. They put that stuff up on your house, and there's a mandate, and you can't get it off of there. And so in California, we're going nuts with that stuff. But with that stuff is happening that the reticular activating system, which is a part of the brainstem, is the most electrical system in the body. Most systems in the body are electrochemical, but the reticular activating system is mostly electrical. And so what's happening, have you ever wondered why your patients can't keep Monday appointments different than Wednesday appointments or Thursday appointments, or they show up, or they come with the checkbook that has no more checks left in it? When was my appointment? Was that today? I wrote it down. They wrote it down wrong. You know, is everybody, excuse me, stupid? No, they're not stupid. They just can't think from one end of their body to the other end of their body because they don't have the electrical sense about them. All of this stuff, all of these minerals are about electric. You'll get vitamins. There are vitamins in this thing that has no electric. But you can't use the vitamins if you don't have the minerals. The minerals are the activators of vitamins. They're the activators of the pH, nutrients, basic nutrients of minerals. The dirt any longer is not a place for vegetables to grow. It's a place to hold vegetables up while they pump chemicals into them. That's all it is. The earth is devoid of the minerals. John just proved it with this device. He just showed us how there isn't anything in this. How many of you people, when you start talking to your patients, well, we want you to eat a little bit better, and they're eating French fries. Well, if you're going to eat French fries, maybe you could eat at least sweet potato fries. It's dead food. Food should give the body vitality. The reason it's dead is it has no minerals in it. It has no vitality. I used to tell my patients, bring in what you're eating. Bring in what you're taking. I want to check on you what's happening. I want to be able to see what your foods are doing for you. And the thing of it is there's a point right here, right between the eyes, which is kind of an EMF point. I'm using my little silly muscle test on it. Some of you may be with muscle testing, some of you may not be. But this guy here, one of the reasons it has no electric left in it is because it's probably 200 years old. It's been irradiated. And it's been nuked. The thing is dead. It has no life in it. It will be looking like this 3 months from now on the shelf somewhere. It will never go soft because it's been petrified. It's been petrified because it's been irradiated. Same thing with most potatoes. This one's been irradiated. Okay? If you want to check another point, this is a point for rancidity, oxidation. This guy's bad. This guy's going to give you a headache if you eat it because it's going bad. But it doesn't look like it's bad. It's not soft. But what it won't do is it won't grow eyes. And if it can't grow eyes, it's dead food. So what we're taking into our body most of the time is we're taking in dead food. And what's dead food going to get you? Dead body. That's what it's going to get you. I don't know any other way to do the math on that. Dead food equals dead body. So cofactors. You need minerals, and you need samples of these minerals all the way through, all 72 of them, to be able to create a metabolic pathway that actually works. Now let me talk about work for a moment and see if I can operate this thing. Okay, so electrolytes, the spark plug of the body's electrical system. Ions are particles which carry an electrical charge. You know all this stuff on energy medicine, it just is like it arrived here yesterday. We've been operating energy medicine since we first put our little tootsies on this earth. And whether or not we climbed out of the sea or climbed out of a this or a part of that or whatever it is, minerals are the most important basic thing that you can do for your sick people until you get a system that you can read. How many of you use Zyto, put a hand on there? You have to wet the hand. You have to wet the cradle. You have to wet the room to get a reading. The reason is because you've got a dead potato. You've got a dead patient. They don't have any electrical current in them any longer. John said it himself. He said, what we do is we put a couple of drops in there and they drink it, and all of a sudden, whoa, we got a score. Oh, my scores are really high today. I must be really sick. No, you're just a little bit more electrical today. The bad stuff will still show up as your high negatives, but that's the deal with it. That's what you're looking at. So electrolytes are substances which form ions. What are we talking about? Ionic minerals. Electrolytes both switch. They're both the switch and the energy source. Cell electrical potential via mineral polarity creates cellular batteries. You know, recently they're creating batteries for cell phones that are called electrolyte batteries, because the neat thing about them is they're using a polymer that they can put in there with a glue gun and make the whole thing work. And what's it doing? It's duplicating how the body works. It's an electrolyte battery. And the nice thing about it, it's not confined by space. Any place in the cell phone they want to put it, they can put it in there. And what they're doing is they're duplicating how our bodies work. What a concept. Technology replicating humans, so forth, so on. So electrolytes, I've got them all put here, and I think I got everybody on the screen that should be there. But the pluses and minuses are what the polarities of these guys are. And most everybody knows that. This is really, I had one of the 70-some-year-old gentlemen, and he is a doctor at Scripps and a close friend. I took care of his wife when she was alive. I took care of him and so forth and so on. He said, I love what you do. He said, I absolutely love what you do. And I said, come on up and see what I do. And he came up and he saw I had a little Krebs cycle chart on the wall. He said, wow. He said, I haven't seen one of those since I was in med school. And he said, what do you do with that? I said, I have it right here in my head. I know every one of these little activities here because that's what makes us work. He said, wow, I want to do what you do. I said, hang around, Bob. I said, I'll show you what I do and how to do it, and you can do it. He said, oh, no, I can't do that till I retire. I said, what do you mean? You mean you're going to miss the opportunity of helping your patients before you retire? He said, well, yeah. He said, they kind of gotten used to this other thing. They come in and they want this pill and that pill. He said, I'm scared of medicine. He said, I never take any of this stuff. He said, it scares me to death. He said, but I do give it to my patients. There was a survey I read the other day that doctors don't do the tests and the other things that they recommend for their patients. They came up with this little tricky way of asking them what they would do if they were faced with an incurable disease, but there was a possibility of recovery if they would take this new experimental drug. And they did it in such a way as to find out whether or not the doctor would recommend that for himself or his family. And they won't do it. Even though they're recommending it to other people, they won't do it themselves. I have a friend who's head of the emergency at Scripps in San Diego. And I said, so how are things at the hospital? He said, oh, we're trying to get people in, get people out. He said, you know, we got a real problem over there. He said, they're chasing everybody around now, giving them all these vaccines. And he said, they come by me, and I said, oh, I'm all set. He said, but they're going to mandate this stuff. And he said, and so now I have to order it, dump it in the toilet, go into the hospital and say, yeah, I inoculated everybody in my family, we're good. That's what medicine is talking to each other about. They don't want this stuff. Autism, one of the biggest causes of the many causes of autism are antibiotic resistance created because of antibiotics being used in vaccines. And I have that lecture, and someone said, would you like to publish that? And I said, no, I like life too much to publish something on that really corners the manufacturers of that stuff who use aminoglycosides in the vaccines because of the garbage that's used in vaccines to create the vaccine, that you got to put an antibiotic in it because the thing is so bad to begin with. Anyway, that's a lecture for another day. What do we do with electrolytes? We have acid-base balance, we have body electric, we have nerve conductance, we have muscle contraction, we have water balance, we have cellular electrical charge and enzyme activation via pH. Metalloenzymes. Minerals play a crucial role in enzyme activation. Zinc requires over 200 enzymes. Iron requires over 78 enzymes. It's required in there. This little guy right here, which is zinc, is in the middle of an enzyme. You can't get that enzyme to function if you don't have that critical part of it. Or if this part of it is, and I have an antagonistic chart up here that shows you all the different minerals and how they're antagonistic to each other. So you basically can't eat just one. Because what you do when you eat just one is you screw up 71 other ones. So it really, well, I have a deficiency in that one, so I'm going to take a bunch of that one. The body uses these things in such micro amounts.